I have never been to a place like this. The only reason I even know this place exists is because I saw another YouTube video by Nick Page where he came out here, and I was like, wow, that place is pretty awesome. I would love to take some shots and just see this open desert. But it's like an 8-hour drive from where I lived, and so I was kind of like, I'll never get the chance to do it. But then I'm moving to Texas, so I was gonna have to drive down south anyway. Perfect opportunity to come visit the Alvord Desert. Now, I was trying to think of how to describe this area. I mean, if you just look at it, it's a huge, vast expanse of this cracked ground. I don't know, it's not beautiful, it's not epic, it's otherworldly. It just seems like, I don't know, like I'm on another planet almost or something. You can just drive on this flat desert bed for a long time. So it's otherworldly. I don't know how else to describe it. Anyway, I got here last night. This is actually morning and I'm about to drive out. But I was taking some photos. Just didn't really have time to do this whole intro, introduce you guys to the landscape and everything. But this is the Alvord Desert. Let's go back in time to yesterday. Don't fall. Oh my gosh. So I drove around so much trying to find an area where the dirt looks kind of cool. And this is kind of the best I think I could find. A lot of this is overrun with roads or these car tracks, and you can especially see them in the sun. If you get the glare on them, they become pretty obvious. And I was thinking, like, you know, it's a huge desert. I ought to find some spots just to myself, but I couldn't find spots to myself either. There's tracks everywhere. So I'm gonna get set up for the shot that Nick Page did here, where the sun is just going behind the mountains and you kind of snap the photo right as it's cresting over the ridge line. However, all these clouds I think are not gonna, I don't think it's gonna happen. I think the sun's just gonna go behind clouds and then we'll get nothing. So the picture I'm really gonna try and get is gonna be kind of a blue hour picture. Or maybe if these clouds pick up color for the sunrise, or I'm sorry, the sunset, maybe I'll get a good picture from that. But I'm thinking the best shot is gonna be once it starts to get dark out. Anyway, not a lot of time. I'm gonna set up. Got set up nice and low. I waited at the perfect moment. I mean, the sun had just come out and it was casting some nice light and shadows on the ground here. I've already taken my photos and I just didn't have time to talk through it because that light was only gonna shine through those clouds for a few seconds. But I basically took a bunch of exposures. One for the very, very close foreground, and then I would zoom out into the background a little more, and then zoom out or focus out a little more, and it ended up being like 6 images, and I'm gonna have to focus stack them because I'm just so close to the ground and those mountains are so far away that you can't get it all in focus, not even in like 2 or 3 images. It took a lot, and I was at f18. Before I show you guys that picture though, I'm going to talk about composition a little bit. You've all heard that, like, if you can get low or get high or do something other than eye level, a lot of times it just adds a lot more impact into the image because it's not what we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing everything at eye level. And like the ground looks cool from up here, but when you get down low, it's like, wow, oh, look at all that. So what I tried to do is basically find a piece of ground that looked interesting, a few clumps that I thought looked good, and I just put them in the bottom right corner. The hardest part of this was figuring out like how low to get. Let me show you guys why in the camera. So here we are in the camera, but this is the same composition that I just took the photo at, and this is how low I decided to get. Kind of the main focus areas are this clump right here, and then there's kind of like these 2 big clumps. I think like just this area was just kind of a good focus. Let me show you guys what happens if it's a little bit higher. All right, here is the composition, and I only raised it not even a foot. It's just come up a few inches, but you can just see how it's in my opinion, it's not as interesting an image. I liked it lower, so let me get this down. See, just from there to there, that looks better, but I was even lower than this. Okay, now I'm just hand holding it because my camera doesn't get this low. But if you were so inclined as to try and shoot this low, I think you can lose a little bit of depth in the image. It just kind of looks like foreground and then background, and then you miss out on kind of this pattern look. So I kind of liked it, like right about here. I don't remember exactly how high I was when I took the picture. I think it was something like this. Some other things I'll just mention. I shot wide, 17 millimeters, and I told you guys I didn't have time to talk through my shoot because I only had a few minutes of sun. It's gone now. The sunlight will not illuminate this ground anymore today, and I just drove out here, so I was just in the nick of time. But for now, I don't know, I'm gonna set up a tent and hang out. So I definitely have several ideas for night. I know the Milky Way will be right over here, somewhere in this area, but I'm not sure if we're gonna see it because of all these clouds, but that was one idea I had. But just a tent with the Milky Way. I know it's not really a landscape photo, and I know everybody does that when they're camping, but I don't really have a night photo of my tent, you know, lit up with a flashlight from the inside and stars, so I kind of wanted to take one just for me. I know it's super cliche, but you know what? I think it's worth trying a long exposure with mountains in the background. What else am I gonna do right now? Let's get set up for that. Am I right? I've got here's another example of a different composition. And this just proves that composition is whatever you want it to be. I've got the horizon in the top third, so I'm using the rule of thirds there, but other than that, sometimes I just throw the rule of thirds out the window. But if you see this crack, it's a pretty prominent crack, and I feel like it just does a good job of leading the eye up into here where you've got some mountains. Obviously, no, it's not all in focus right now. I'm gonna focus stack, and then the last image I think will be the sky blurred with a 6-stop filter or something to really get some movement in the sky there. So I really need to get to work. Let me grab my filter actually. So I just got about 4, I think it was maybe 5 exposures actually, where I'm gonna focus stack. This is when the depth of field preview button comes in super and handy. Let me just show you guys. So I'm in live view. I'm going to zoom in. It's all the way at the bottom here. I'm gonna wanna get this in focus. So I'll focus that up nice and sharp. And then when you push the depth of field preview button, you can see what's gonna be in focus. The depth of field preview button basically opens the aperture to whatever aperture you're going to take the picture with in live view though. Because normally live view just shows you the image with the aperture fully open. So it's hard to see like, oh, is everything gonna be in focus or not? So while I'm holding the depth of field preview button, I can go, oh wow, all of this is in focus. Where does it start to get out of focus? Right about there. So now I'm just gonna focus in on here. And then I would take this picture. And then I can scroll up a little more and say, where does it get out of focus? Maybe like right there. This might be hard to see. And then I would do the last one at infinity. If you just look at live view and you're not holding that button, you're gonna be like, wow, my depth of field is so narrow. I'm sorry, that's probably a terrible explanation. I'm sure there's other videos online where you can look up more about the depth of field preview button, because I probably just confused a lot of people. But if you know what it is and you know how to work it, then it's a great tool. If you guys want to look something up, I don't know if you have the funds or the means or the desire to travel here, but there are some salt flats in Bolivia. It's just huge expanse of this flat salt desert thing, and It just looks incredible. I would love to go there. When it rains, it basically turns the ground into basically a mirror, and it just reflects the sky. And there are some awesome photos. You should Google it. Bolivian salt flats. So those are the photos. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will show a few more here. Since composition kind of seemed to be a big theme on this video, I just want to reiterate kind of that the big rules of composition, and this is how I view it, and obviously I'm not a professional or anything. The rule of thirds, that's a great one and it works a lot. Leading lines, that works great a lot of times too. Fill the frame with what interests you. But all of these rules should be broken. I mean, they are not hard and fast, and they don't always work for everything. I think the number one composition rule is just make it look good. If you find the composition that looks good to you and it's not really following any of these rules, that's fine. Your job as a photographer is to capture the image and just make it look good. The other thing I'd like to say is, sometimes just moving your camera and your tripod a few inches left or right, moving it a little bit higher, a little bit lower, getting different angles, zooming in a little, maybe zooming out a little, all these things really change the image a lot. So you kind of have to experiment, just move around, especially if you have the time. Just shoot different compositions. Even if you think you've got the one you like, try doing it from different angles and all sorts of things, because experimentation sometimes leads to some pretty good results. Again, guys, have fun out there shooting. Really appreciate you watching this video. Thanks for watching so much. That's it. This is goodbye. Play the music. See ya!